Yua hugged the stuffed Gero Froggy by her pillow tightly as she thought about Takumi. However, her expression soon vanished, replaced only by the gritting of her teeth. It hurt to breathe. All I was doing was looking things up on my PC, yet it hurt to breathe. I could feel my heart pounding harder than it ever had before. And of course, the feeling that something was watching me would not go away. I was still just barely keeping myself from turning around, but I knew I couldn't do it for much longer. I cried out angrily at whatever it was. Surely it wasn't the demon girl, right? Oh god, what if it was? She could be using second sight or clairvoyance or some other demonic power to spy on me. The chills on the back of my neck were gradually growing stronger, to the point where they were getting slightly painful, like jolts of electricity coursing through my body. I was covering from head to toe in sweat. Covered from head to toe in sweat. The front of my t-shirt was completely soaked. Unable to take it anymore, I whipped around in my chair as forcefully as I could, yet all I saw was my room, in the same condition as always. I didn't see a single thing that shouldn't have been there. With a yell that was closer to a shriek than anything, I burst up from my chair and went to make sure the door was locked. And much to my relief, it was. I rubbed away the sweat on my forehead with my sleeve. Returning to my PC, I focused on the monitor once more. It was still displaying what I had been researching earlier: precognition. When I was a kid, I had truly believed that precognition existed, the psychics existed, and if I was being completely honest, I still did to a degree. That was why my first thought had been the image from Shogun and the demon girl was a precognitive photograph, and a thought which only drove me to look into it all the more. What if, maybe, just maybe, there were tons of psychics all over the world and I just didn't know? Back when I was a kid, when the bus accident happened, I had managed something that had been pretty close to precognition. For that reason, I couldn't completely rule out its existence. But no matter how much I searched, all I could find was extremely dubious articles about the occult, voodoo shit, or whatever else. There was absolutely nothing proved scientifically whether it existed or not. Growing increasingly frustrated, I violently tapped away at the keyboard. I couldn't deal with how anxious not having a concrete answer made me. Was the world really telling me to give up? To wait here, trembling in fear demons that might or might not come? I couldn't stay sane like that. Of course, I wouldn't vastly prefer to learn that precognition didn't exist, but regardless of what the truth was, I needed to know it badly. Pretty much out of all, pretty much out of options, I decided to take a look at Ed Channel's occult board. The place was typically home to nothing but total bullshit noise, lies, and misinformation, mainly, but it actually had some pretty mind blowing and even useful information scattered on it sometimes. Biting back how frantic I was, I opened up a channel. Then I clicked on the occult board and gave precognition a search. When I did, precognition and prophecies, Phantasm General New Gen 4883, shittily predicted the future of Japan. Precognition thread 6, number of dudes who want Festan, Queen of Precognition, to kick their shit in, the Messiah, Fess, Precognition Discussion. Ah, Fess ist diese eine Sängerin. Wir haben die, glaube ich, ganz kurz gesehen. Und es war ein Song, den sie gesungen hat, während sie allein im Regen stand oder sowas. Funk Phantasm, Thread 11. More like superstition. What do you guys think of Phantasm's prophetic songs? Clear precognition, emo. Why Phantasm are literal murderers pretending to have precognition, part 5. If you have had precognitive dreams, get your ass in the thread. Trolls, get the fuck out. Logging off to Hearfest Prophecies Precognition IRL Part 3. My search pulled up a surprising number of threads, about 30 of them. Was precognition at a hot topic on Ed channel at the moment? With a gulp, I checked the threads titles one by one. Mostly of the threads contained those two keywords. In addition, new gen discussion had also wormed its way in, with lots of unsettling terms like prophetic lyrics and murderer being used. Having never heard of Phantasm before, I went to Google them. Apparently, they were a Shibuya-based 4-piece gothic punk band that had been doing live concerts recently. They were so popular, in fact, that they were completely dominating the indie music scene, with a female vocalist known only as Fess. Or Fes, wie er gerade gesagt hat. Anyway, to check whether it was related to precognition or not, I clicked on the thread at the top titled Precognition and Prophecies Phantasm General New Gen 43 and gave the contents a brief skim. Calm your tits, everyone. But yeah, let's all go to the concert Sunday. Those who do will enjoy FES Summer's Black Mass without letting any of it go to waste. Miss out and you will be getting the crucifixion treatment, Lemao. I read the lyrics, but it still feels like a stretch. The phrasing is vague as shit. There's no way any are actual prophecies. If I'm wrong, though, have mercy on me, crucifixion killer, lol. Calling it precognition or prophecy or whatever the fuck is taking it way too far, Lemao. This ain't Nostradamus, so how about we just sit back and enjoy the music for what it is? FES stuff ain't bad lyrically, but I definitely can feel the new gen connection, to be honest. Everyone always talks about FES. Rip the composer Rio. Poor guys getting no credit. FES Tan, hoof hoof. FES Tan's lyrics forced me to find the meaning of life. It's a trap. FES starts are total shitters, Lemao. Well, to be honest, I want to be insulted by FES Summer in that chill voice of hers while she grinds her boots into my ass over and over until it feels like my eyes are gonna fall out of their sockets. It would feel so intoxicating to stop on the edge, right at the last moment, and so erotic as I wonder if she will spit on my face or not. No matter what you think, I want FES to just take a knife and cut open my throat, ending my life. I want to breath my last breath as she says to me, "You're an eyesore." FES Tan is my waifu. Take that to the BDSM thread. Also, FES is my waifu actually. Stop bumping this shit. this what you guys mean by new gen prophecy stuff? O servant, revealed by the light of the moonlit night, connect the phantasmal path which led to this place. Little do they know their screams will soon turn to silence and repose shall fall upon us as we link hand in hand with the wind. By the way, I say fucking fuck Phantasm. Like Lamau, their fans are terrifying. You would think they were all brainwashed. Mach mir keine Angst, 19. Ich dachte gerade, das Internet ist schon wieder ausgefallen. Lol, now you're gonna get it. Don't leak the real lyrics, dumbass. What a brainless troll. Those lyrics. Depending on how you interpreted, wie auch immer, them, they could be seen as referring to the group dive. Yet those lyrics had been released 2 months ago, which meant they hadn't been written after the crucifixion. Could it just be a coincidence, or could Phantasm be yet another of the demon girl's underlings? I read the thread in more detail only to find out that each of the 3 new gen incidents had been prophesied by Phantom's Lyrics. Nee, ich habe gelernt, ich schreibe, wenn das Stream weg ist. Danke dafür, 19. Beim nächsten Mal, wenn es passiert, hast du es wahrscheinlich vergessen. Aber das macht nichts. Muss ja auch selber eigentlich ein bisschen drauf achten. Beziehungsweise die Leute, die hier Moderatoren sind. However, the lyrics for the songs that supposedly prophesied the man-child and crucifixion incidents had not been posted on Ad Channel. Jetzt zugegebenermaßen, dieses Spiel ist ein bisschen schwierig, nebenbei zu gucken. Ob der Stream überhaupt läuft, weil ich ja 90% mit Lesen beschäftigt bin. Hier gibt es Mods, ja, die sind so halb abwesend, manchmal in der Nutzerliste zu sehen. Tatsächlich ist das Logo sogar abgehauen, glaube ich. Also entweder ist er abgehauen oder so inaktiv, dass Twitch ihn nicht mehr sieht. Apparently, uploading them online was viewed as a taboo of sorts. The philosophy seemed to be, if you really want to know, just go to the concerts and buy an album yourself. Regardless, there were a great number of people online trying to predict the next new gen case based on the songs Phantasm had performed thus far. And apparently, ever since new gen kicked off, Phantasm's albums had been completely selling out. They had been so successful, in fact, that even the mainstream media had picked up on it. Gothic band boasting cult following rises among the youth of Shibuya. New stories like that were popping up all over the place. The one writing the lyrics was the head singer FAS. Nobody knew her real name. What if FAS was actually the demon girl? If she was, it would explain how she had managed to prophesize the incidents literal month before they had occurred. The demon girl was the culprit after all. Ich finde immer noch geil, dass das Fake Google, was er hat, Delude, wie halt von Delusion heißt. I tried doing an image search, but I couldn't find any good photos of her face. All the pictures were taken by phones during her concerts, and they were so blurry that I couldn't even begin to make out her face. Wo es bedenkt, das Spiel spielt irgendwie 2005 oder so. Die Handys waren noch nicht so gut. Besonders in Dunkelheit und so. I wiped my sweat-drenched forehead with the hem of my shirt. I was frustrated. I was scared. I couldn't believe anything. I didn't even want to see anything. Several emotions swelled within me, suffocating me. My breathing hadn't even come close to stabilizing this entire time. But even so, I knew one thing was for certain. I needed to see FAS's face. With trembling fingers, I typed in Phantasm's name and clicked on the official website. The site was mostly black, decorated only by text of a uniform deep crimson color. It was unrelenting in its simplicity, and yet it felt so incredibly eerie and strange. There was barely anything on the site at all, just basic information on their concerts and discography. There wasn't even a single image. There were no profiles on the band members, nor anything on their song lyrics.
やっぱり犯人だけあってネットに顔写真が流出しないようにしてるのか。
Talk about sorrow. Ja, wieder was falsch gelesen. I took a look at their performance schedule and saw that they typically performed about every other week. Their next concert was, if I went to it, I would be able to check whether FES was a demon girl or not. But even if I did find out they were not one and the same, what would I even do? Report FAS to the police, cry and beg for her to leave me alone, bring a crucifix and attempt a mock exorcism? Yeah, none of these were gonna happen. I was up against a demon. There was no way in hell an otaku freak like me could come out on top. Ich denke mir gerade die ganze Zeit auch, es ist auch, er wird auch garantiert nicht zu einem Konzert voller Leute aus der, in Klammern, 3D-Welt hingehen. Wenn er nicht mal als Einzelperson in die Augen gucken kann. Problem is, if I didn't, I would die. She would transform my corpse into her newest art piece, and I would be posted on the All Things New Gen site as yet another case. But if I didn't do something, I would never find out what the picture of me that Shogun had sent really meant. And on the off chance that FES wasn't connected to the demon girl, maybe I could ask her to help me fight against whoever the demon girl actually was. Genau das. I had never been to one in my life. That sort of thing was infinitely beyond my comfort zone. Not to mention concert halls were cramped and dark and noisy and crowded. Just imagining a place like that made me wanna hurl. I was at my wits' end. I had no idea what to do. The chills on the back of my neck still hadn't gone away, and the painful, prickling sensation suddenly turned into a burning one. I looked behind me yet again, but like always, nobody was there. I closed my eyes tightly, focusing on nothing other than waiting for the gaze to disappear. I didn't want to go through this torment for the rest of my life. For all I knew, the gaze would straight up kill me someday. Wow, das soll Gigantes heißen. Ich habe gerade erst auf das Schild geguckt und habe so überlegt, was steht da? Und dann sehe ich gerade runter steht, dass es Gigantes heißen soll. Hiding in the shadow of the telephone pole, I looked at the Gigantes concert hall from afar. After agonizing over it all day yesterday, I had somehow managed to nut up and did what needed to be done. So here I was, Gigantes. I was located on a narrow street in Shibuya. It was located on a narrow street in Shibuya beneath the elevated railroad tracks. It had a very distinct red brick exterior. The exterior was lit up too, giving off on an old-fashioned austere vibe that made it feel as if I had been transported back in time to the 50s or something. To think that a spot like this was in Shibuya of all places, I had, I would had not no I would had no idea it even existed until yesterday. I had? Ganz ehrlich, so gut wie sie das noch übersetzt haben, ne? Da sind ganz viele D-Abkürzungen für had und would viel zu oft im Text. Wo man keine Ahnung hat, ist es jetzt would oder had, und dann versuche ich das zu lesen, merke den weiteren Satz und denke so, would passt nicht, ich muss had sagen. Schlimm ist das in diesem Spiel. It was only 5 minutes from the station on foot, yet there weren't very many people at all. Every once in a while, a train would pass over the elevated tracks with a tremendous roar, and the telephone pole I was hiding behind would tremble slightly, but that was about it. Just a moment ago, there had been a bunch of what appeared to be phantasm pants in front of the Gigantes. Some of them were wearing outfits so out there I had almost mistaken them for cosplayers. However, what surprised me the most was that there honestly weren't that many of them. Despite being such a huge topic online, there must have been no more than 100 people there. Regardless, they were all inside the building now. The concert had already begun, but since none of the audio managed to bleed outside, it certainly didn't feel like it. My heart palpitations had gone away after I had fallen asleep yesterday, but they would come back with a vengeance the second I had arrived in front of the venue. It had been so hard to breathe. I had almost thought I was dealing with some kind of heart failure. But really, I knew exactly why it was so hard. This place was filled with a thick, impenetrable darkness. The demon girl and her underlings could be lurking around any corner. Knowing that, I had been on the lookout for anyone that might attack me ever since I got here. The sheer anxiety and paranoia was comparable to what it felt like going through the Vance volcano dungeon in Ezo. Mobs in the Vance volcano dungeon were OP as hell, and it was surrounded by the kind of lava that insta-killed you if you so much as clipped it with your pinky toe. That shit couldn't have been play tested. The amount of times I had died there, holy hell. I wiped the sweat off my forehead with a hand towel and gulped down a gulp of salvia. Right as I did, the door at the top of the stairs opened and the furious beating of drums reverberated from inside Gigantes for a few seconds. A single guy exited from the door. He jogged nimbly down the stairs and then toward me.
Yo, Taku. 待ったか
Haben wir ihn gebeten, dass er mitkommt oder was? I had invited Mitsumi-kun. Okay, wunderbar. To go to the venue with me. As I didn't know his phone number, I had been forced to go to the school today just to ask him to go. If he hadn't come with me, I probably wouldn't have been would even made it this far. And even if I had somehow forced myself to go in the building alone, if the demon girl was there, it would be a certified game over. So I had Mitsumi-kun operate as a scout. I did feel bad about throwing him into the line of fire, so I obviously hadn't told him about that part. The only people I could rely on were him and Nanami, so I picked the less annoying of the two, Mitsumi-kun. Ich würde mal behaupten, dass meine kleine Schwester wahrscheinlich jünger ist als ich und wahrscheinlich nichts in so einer Ecke um die Uhrzeit zu suchen hat vielleicht. I even covered his ticket costs, so in a sense, you could say I had hired him for 1,000 yen.
ほらよ、これ CD な。俺自分の分も買っちまったよ。
Mitsumi-kun handed me a Phantasm album. They were being sold for an outrageous premium in online auctions, but I had heard on Edgel that they were also available at their concerts, so I had asked Mitsumi-kun to buy one for me. And now that I had one, I had achieved half of the goals I had set out for myself. As for the remaining half,
予想以上にいいな、ファンタズムって。
Mitsumi-kun had been acting pretty excited ever since he had exited the venue.
あんまミーハーになりたくなかったんで聞こうとしなかったんだけどよ。今日ちょっと生で聞いただけでファンになっちまった。
The other thing I had asked Mitsumi-kun to do was report anything in particular that stood out about the band members. I knew they would all come out on stage once the concert started, so all I had wanted him to do was a quick scan, then head back to me right after. Yet despite my very specific instructions, he hadn't come back for a full 5 minutes after the show started. This was probably because he had listened to the entirety of the first song. Ich würde auch behaupten, dass es bestimmt so 5 Minuten dauert, bis man die CDs kaufen kann, aber egal.
特にボーカル、ありゃマジでいい女だぜ。お前、女見る目あるな。
I sighed internally, thinking with the wrong head like usual. Why was I even surprised? So much for I'm no sheep.
どんな人だった？ああ、そっか。報告な。なんか探偵みてえで面白いな。そう思わねえ？
Mizumi-kun grinned to himself, and I pressed him again to tell me about FES's appearance.
髪型はショートカットだった。
And just like that, there was already a huge discrepancy. Did that mean FES wasn't the demon girl? She could have cut her hair, or couldn't have used hair extensions, or could have changed it in some other way. It wouldn't surprise me if she had been in disguise when I had seen her at the crime scene.
スタイルがすっげえ良くて、あと背が高かったな。ありゃ俺と同じぐらいはあるんじゃねえの？背が
In the same height and the same height as you? Mizumi-kun and I were about the same height, which meant FES was probably around 170 centimeters tall. Pretty tall for a girl. But I hadn't gotten that impression at all when I had encountered the demon girl. My memories from back then were hazy, but I still felt like the demon girl had been shorter than me. Yet another thing that didn't line up then.
他には。そうだな。アンニュイな雰囲気してたな。声はクールってイメージかな。結構ボソボソと喋るタイプだった。胸のサイズはまあまあ。でもゴスパンの服は妙な色気があったぜ。 ああいうのもありだな。断然あり。
Oh god damn it, every single word he said was completely fucking useless. Then again, I had only gotten a quick look at the demon girl, so I couldn't exactly list her features. This plan was probably doomed from the start.
っていうかよ、そんなにフェスに興味あるなら自分の目で見ればいいじゃねえか。ほら、行こうぜ。
Mizumi-gun began to push me from behind, forcing me up the stairs of the Gigantes. I desperately tried to fight back, but Mizumi-kun was stronger than me. I couldn't get away.
見たいんだろ、フェスの顔を。素直になるって。浮気ってのは男の差がだよな。たくも大人になったもんだぜ。この前一緒に帰ってたメガネの子のことは今夜だけは気にすんなって。俺も田中のことは忘れるからよ。
What the hell was he talking about? I tried to stand my ground and fight back, but to my horror I realized that I was already at the top of the stairs. While it was only the second floor, if I were to slip and fall, it would hurt like hell. Just a thought made me stop resisting hard. And in that moment of weakness, my entire body weight was sent crashing through the door and into the venue. The second I hit the inside, an explosion of sound blasted my eardrums. I had never experienced something so loud before. Even the pit of my stomach was being forcibly shaken by the vibrations. It was so intense it felt as if my entire body was being crushed to pieces. There were no seats in the venue. Everyone was standing up to watch. They were all rocking their bodies in rhythm with each other, shouting FES, 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 as their fists shot up and down. Still nowhere near the level of a Wotage performance though. Lass mich raten, Wotage ist eine japanische Abkürzung von Watergate. A unique sheer of or performance that selection of fans enact at idol concerts and other live shows. Some performances include very intense physical moments, which each and every one of the moments having a specific name to them. Fans in an audience performing Wotage in perfect coordination is a sight to behold. Okay, also eher wie koordinierte Sachen. The heat was devastating. It made me want to vomit. I might have been an otaku, but I was definitely not the type to obsess over idols or voice actors. Honestly, I hated this kind of atmosphere. I could tell I stuck out like a sore thumb, but thankfully nobody was paying any attention to me. There were so many people in front of me. I could barely see the stage at the far end of the room. Just the blinding stage lights and the faint figures of 4 people standing under them. And as I was getting overwhelmed by everything happening around me, Mizumi-kun handed me a plastic cup of soda. Seemed like Mizumi-kun had paid for my ticket too. I would have to make sure to pay him back later. Before I knew it, the song was over, the audience clapped and cheered. Then, having seemingly calmed down a little, everyone brought down their fists. Thanks to that, the road to the stage finally opened up and I was able to see it clearly. I got a good look at the short-haired girl standing in the middle of the stage. She was definitely not the demon girl.
今日はいつもより調子いいわ。声がクリアに聞こえる。世界がとても澄んでいる。
The voice coming through the amp sounded nothing like the demon girls that had said the cryptic words to me. Mizumi-kun was right. FES definitely had an aloof vibe to her. Despite her short hair, she didn't feel boyish. She gave off this mysterious aura with a mix of charm, allure, and a hint of distance. And to top it all off, the silver accessories she was wearing all glittered fantastically as they reflected the lights. It felt like I was starting to understand why there were so many threads about her on Ed Channel. In this kind of concert, I had always thought that the band members would be more energetic, but FES seemed incredibly indifferent during the intermission. She was pretty much the exact opposite of the excited audience. Maybe that was just the type of person she was. But it seemed like the audience wasn't surprised by that. They just stayed silent during the break, listening closely to FES's words. Cocytus. In Greek mythology, okay, das klang auch ziemlich griechisch, it is one of the two rivers located at the entrance of the underworld. The name translates to River of Lamentation. The dead cross this river in order to enter the underworld. Okay, dann ist Cocytus der eine River und der andere ist dann der Styx, oder was? Verstehe ich das richtig? Ich hoffe. I'm sorry, what? Cocytus? What language was she even speaking? Okay. The Greater Will. Suddenly SMT. Aber SMT ist ja einer der, ich sag mal, Antagonisten ist der Greater Will in manchen der Spiele. Oh, I guess they were a goth punk band, so the band members probably had characters that they played. Maybe it was an easy way to win over the hearts of fans. Just spout some random nonsense that hinted that it might mean something, giving it enough mystique to keep people engrossed. Speaking of mystique, FES was holding something strange in her hand. In her left hand was a plain old mic, but in the other she was holding some sort of weirdly shaped mic stand. It looked like kind of like a sword. It was shaped so elegantly it felt sinister. It looked so sharp that if you even so much as grazed it, it would slice your finger in two. It was huge too, as tall as FES in fact. There were also lines of glass embedded into it, which glowed with an ominous blue light. I couldn't tell if it was really a sword or not, but either way it wasn't half bad as a character accessory. No complaints there. I was strangely captivated by it. Then, using only her right arm, FES casually lifted the huge mic stand. And with an underhand grip, she swung it sideways. The blue light from the glass drew a wide arc with its afterglow. What the hell? That was dangerous. What if it would hit someone in the crowd? That wasn't a mic stand. Could it be a sword? Every night she would use it to cut the throat of some poor audience member, harvesting blood to offer to the demon girl or something. So was this concert actually some sort of black mass organized by a bunch of witches? A fierce chill ran down my spine just thinking about it. Goosebumps covered my entire body. I should really get out of here ASAP. But the moment I thought that, FAS let out a gentle whisper.
次は3曲目。密教の首飾り。
The necklace of Vajrayana. The crowd let out a huge cry of joy upon hearing that. Okay, jetzt wird der Stream gemutet wahrscheinlich. A moment later, the members of Phantasm all started playing, and a second flood of sound poured into my ears. A thunderous roar came from the speakers, a roar that felt like it was going to blow out my eardrums. How had these people not gone deaf yet, hanging out in places like this all the time? Looking to my side, I noticed Mizumi-kun was fully into it, popping his fist in sync with the rest of the audience. The intro ended, FAS began to sing, and when I heard the lyrics I swallowed hard. She was singing the prophetic song that had been posted all over AdChannel. It was a dark piece that didn't feel the slightest bit optimistic. Even its melody felt like a religious psalm, and the lyrics definitely didn't help. Everyone was getting riled up at first, but as the song went on, the excitement dropped further and further, and by the end everyone just stood there, not saying a word. But that was because everyone was fully lost in the sound. Some of them just stared at FAS, completely entranced. There was definitely something about FAS's singing voice that captivated people. Even as I battled fear and nausea in the middle of the crowd, I found myself listening very closely to her song, not wanting to miss it. Goosebumps sprang all over me. For a moment it felt like the air itself had frozen over. The song ended. FAS was looking down at the stage, swaying her body from side to side as she soaked in the last echoes of the music. And then she suddenly looked back up, and without even gazing around for a second, she instantly looked at me. And it wasn't like she had just glanced in the general direction of my eyes, or like she had briefly made eye contact with me or anything like that. FAS was blandly looking right at me. I would even go as far as to say she was staring at me, fixedly, as if evaluating my existence, as if searching deep within my heart. Her gaze was all too intense, and yet, somehow, she seemed a little sad. Und da fangen unsere Fantasien wieder an. Before I knew it, I was slowly walking on a rooftop, all alone. The wind was extremely strong, blowing raindrops into me from the side. What was strange though was that I didn't feel cold. I remembered this place. It felt like I had been there many times before. Oh, I knew where it was now. The dreary scenery surrounded by a fence. It was the school rooftop. I took a look around me. But the rain had made everything so hazy. I couldn't make out anything. It was surreal. It felt like the world itself had become blurred. Beyond the haze, on the other side of the fence, was FAS. She was standing there facing me, and she was soaking wet. She was looking straight at me, just like at the concert, and in her right arm, just like before, she was gripping that sword-like mic stand tightly. The wind blowing from below sent FAS's soaked hair fluttering furiously in the air. If she even slightly lost her balance, she would definitely fall, and at this height, that would be a death sentence. And yet, despite where she was, FAS stood tall without the slightest hint of fear in her eyes. On the verge of tears, FAS gently extended her left hand toward me. Let's jump off together. It was almost as if she was asking me to go with her, trying to seduce me. I couldn't give any response. I had no idea what to do. FAS said nothing back to me either. She just spread her arms out wide, taking on a pose as if she had been crucified. Suddenly the rain and the wind stopped. I tried to say something, but I couldn't make a sound. Nothing would come out of my mouth. FAS's body slowly tilted backward. Everything seemed to be happening in slow motion. I tried to reach out toward FAS, but my own movements were in a slow motion too, so I could only look on in frustration as my arm slowly extended out in front of me. FAS was already closing her eyes. Not long after, her figure disappeared from my line of sight. Ugh. I had been getting lost in my own delusions as usual, but it had all gone south pretty quickly. Well, that goes to show how strong the aura FAS gave off truly was. She sort of had this sense of ruinous beauty to her. That said, I didn't have the slightest fucking clue what ruinous beauty was supposed to mean, though. Lol. Okay. Sauce Lemao. In the end, I got sick from the size of the crowd at the concert, so I had to rush to leave the venue. As a result, I barely watched any of the performance at all, and honestly, I never wanted to go ever again. Well then, I guess I will log on to ESO or something. That ought to rid me of this depression. To me, ESO was my life. It was my happy place, a breath of fresh air that let me forget all about the real world. As long as I could immerse myself in ESO, I could forget about all my troubles. I could stop being me and instead wander Baselard as Neidhart. But today, for some reason, Neidhart was a little off. Yes, I knew that he relied entirely on my inputs and my decisions, but somehow I found myself struggling to pull off things I could normally do with my eyes closed. This game was supposed to be a breath of fresh air, but today, the more I played it, the more irritated I got. I knew it was all my fault, but I still took my anger out on Neidhart. I yanked at my hair and kicked the bare steel wall. Having laid out all my anger, I took a deep breath and sat back down on my chair. I stared vacantly on my monitor. Neidhart was just standing there, facing toward the gates of the city of Shangri-Lu, free of my control. His back was facing toward me just as it always was when I fought enemies, and of course, it was at maximum level. Had the human I known as Nishijo Takumi leveled up even slightly since he had started playing ESO? No? Since he had been born? If I had, then why was I still so bad at talking to people, even though I was nearly an adult? Why was I a borderline shut-in? Na gut, zum ersten wahrscheinlich, weil du wenig mit Leuten redest. Zum zweiten, weil du den ganzen Tag MMO spielst wahrscheinlich. If I didn't log in as Neidhart for weeks, would he also turn into a shut-in like me? Whose eyes are those eyes? I suddenly remembered those words as I stared at Neidhart's back. I was mildly interested in what Neidhart would do when I wasn't controlling him. So figuring I would observe him for a little, I left my keyboard alone as I ate some chips.
もしナイトハルトに自我があるとしたら
Then surely he would waltz right into the city of Shangri-La, wind blowing against his shoulders, right? He was the hero everyone worshipped after all.
ねえナイトハルト僕はいつでもお前を見てるんだぞお前はそれに気づいてるの
Ich habe mal eine positive Fantasie gewählt. And then... Let's go to the 2D world. I hadn't typed anything, yet Neidhart still spoke. Thinking it was just an optical illusion, I rubbed my eyes, but the message was still there, displayed in the chat. Go to the 2D world? What was that supposed to mean? Even you can be a hero. We will fight together.
僕に言ってるの
You're not into 3D, right? You couldn't care less about it.
いやそうだけど
Neidhart was speaking to me, the player controlling him. What the fuck? Did he have a will of his own after all? Place your hand on the monitor. When you do, you'll be able to enter Baselard as Nichijou Takumi. The password is... Those eyes are those eyes.
だが断る二次元世界に行くならせっかくだから僕はエロゲの世界を選ぶぜバゼラードはお前に任せるよナイトハルト
After replying, I used forced shutdown to turn off my computer. I will tell you exactly what's happened. I reluctantly decided to go to school today, but before I knew it, I found myself going to buy a phone with my little sister. I'm sure you don't understand what I'm saying, but I don't really understand it either. I thought I was going insane.
お兄何ブツブツ言ってんのそれよりほらこの機種はどうかって聞いてないんだけど
I think I want to go home. Besides, how many times do I have to tell you that I don't need a cell phone? God, it hurts having a sister this brain dead. When I had gone to school today, Nanami had made her assault right in my classroom. After happily saying, "Wow, you actually came to school today," she had ordered me to go out and buy a phone with her once school was over. Once the bell rang, I had tried to escape without her noticing, but I had forgotten how quick Nanami was on her feet. So after being chased and easily caught up to, I found myself dragged all the way to the front of the station. I didn't want to go anywhere near the station, and I felt like that the whole way there. Even now I felt like I was going to throw up. Nanami, though not giving a damn about what I felt, was busy admiring the many different models on display in the front of the store. I tried to wrap my head around why exactly Nanami was so insistent about getting me a phone, but I just got a headache instead.
これ色が結構可愛いじゃんいいと思うな
Since she was asking for my opinion, I gave a simple reply.
それっていい
でもなお兄
See, it didn't even matter what I said. It would happen regardless. I had completely lost track of how many times I had said that's fine by this point. She would ask for my opinion, but she didn't actually intend to listen to it. This was exactly why 3D girls sucked so much ass.
お兄大丈夫？やっぱり人の長にやられちゃった？マコディで休もうか？
Makodi? The fucking prime hangout from Dikyuns? That place was hell incarnate. I violently shook my head.
そっか。じゃあなるべく早めに決めるね。でもちょっと迷っちゃっててさ。
I decided to just leave Nanami behind and go home. While Nanami intensely examined the array of cell phones, I took my chance to slip away. Right as I turned toward 107, I saw something so strange it stopped me dead in my tracks. What was that? Across the crowds of people on the stairs of 107 stood a girl that stuck out like a sore thumb. Was she holding a sword? Color and aura it gave off felt somewhat similar to the mics that FAS had been using at the concert. In fact, I would say it was perfectly fair to think of them in the same vein. But even then, it was still one massive sword. It might have been even longer than FAS's mic stand. To my surprise, the girl was wearing a Sume uniform. I couldn't make out her face from the distance, but despite holding something so conspicuous, the girl seemed relaxed as could be. She simply watched the people walk down the street from atop the stairs. Talk about bravery. I was seriously impressed. I couldn't believe she was walking around right smack in the middle of Shibuya with that massive toy sword. Must have had one hell of a humiliation fetish. Was the sword a cosplay prop from some new anime? Then again, I was pretty familiar with all the anime that were airing. Was there really a series with a sword like that? Had it slipped under my radar? Of course, walking around Shibuya holding one would be too much for me, but the sword itself was pretty damn cool. Kinda want to get one, honestly. I wondered if I could get one in Akiba. Even better if I could order it online.
お兄
Ah, unsere Schwester hat uns wieder erwischt. Damn. I was suddenly struck with an elbow to the back. The pain almost made me black out and collapse on the spot. I turned around to find Nanami with her hands on her hips, sullen as could
も
be.
しかして逃げようとした？確かにナナが選ぶのに時間かけすぎたのは悪いと思うけどさ。だからってナナを置き去りにして逃げようとするなんてひどいよ。
I lazily shook my head from side to side.
お兄のバカ。携帯の電磁波の浴びすぎで腎臓を悪くして死んじゃえ。
The fuck was her deal?
一生懸命お兄のために選んであげてたナナがバカみたいじゃん。こうなったらもう適当に決める。お兄なんてナナと同じ機種で十分だよ。
Nanami forcefully grabbed my arm.
本気で今日契約するんだからね。それまで絶対逃がさない。
わかったよ。話せよ。
分かったならさっさと来て。
I didn't have a clue why Nanami had gotten so worked up. She really was a pain in the ass. In the end, Nanami picked out a model with ease, as if she hadn't just spent 10 years trying to choose. After spending around an hour on the contract and other technical stuff, I tried to finally head back home with my phone, but Nanami stopped
ナ
me.
ナが初期設定してあげるからマコディやろ。
Without waiting for a response, she grabbed me by the back of my collar and started dragging me to the nearest Makudo Naruto against my will.
どうせ鬼、携帯持って帰っても電源入れずにほったらかしにするに決まってるんだから。
Richtig!
ナナがちゃんと使えるようにしてあげる。
God damn it, how much longer was she planning to hold me hostage? And out of all these places she could have chosen to do it, why McDonald's? The inside of the Shibuya McDonald's was the embodiment of chaos. There were shitloads of people and none of them ever shut the hell up. The sheer amount of DQs was off the charts. At the table right next to us sat 3 DQ tier mothers with dyed brown hair, and to make things even better, they had brought their kids with them. They just left their children 3 little crotch goblins with red highlights to be specific to run around the restaurant squealing their heads off. Instead of controlling them, they just kept on chatting away. At a different table was yet another group of DQs. This time made up of 4 high school girls, all laughing like obnoxious pricks. Next, 2 high school girls, completed with baggy socks and dyed brown hair, sat opposite to each other, hyper-focused on their phones. They didn't even bother talking. Besides them was a snoring middle-aged businessman slumped down on his table, making it pretty obvious that he was skipping out on work. But what really made me double take was the table close by a group of 5 elementary schoolers. Some boys, some girls. They all sat there with their little school bags on the floor, happily chatting it up with each other as their legs swung back and forth beneath the table. So considering that it was a co-ed, was it a mixer? It was, wasn't it? Weren't they elementary schoolers? Well, regardless, the point is that as far as the eye could see, they were groups of people that I avoided like the plague. Nanami had no problem at all relaxing at a place like this. Me, on the other hand, just setting foot in here only served to make my headache and nausea 1,000 times worse. Wait, why the hell did I have to play along with my sister and stay here in the first place?
着信メロディーはどうする？なんか希望ある？
Without even looking in my direction, Nanami played around with my phone as she prodded me for an answer.
アニソン。
キャッカー。そんなだからお兄はオタクさんなんだよ。
Meine, wenn ein Otaku ist, warum kein Anime-Song? You're the one asking me what I prefer. Come on, it's my fault, so at least let me pick what I want.
あ、そうだ。大村彼らの新曲にしたら？あれすっごくいい曲だよ。最近のナナのお気に入り。
Wow.
それこそ却下だ。
まあ、お兄に大村彼らは似合わないか。
After showing how little she actually cared about what I thought, Naomi took a bite of one of her French fries. I should probably mention that this bitch asked for a fish sandwich combo before dinner, one that I had to pay for. I, meanwhile, was feeling so garbage that my appetite was long gone. Piece of shit sister spoiling her appetite and mine. Fucking bullshit.
あ、そうそう。それとね。
For whatever reason, Nanami placed her back on her lap and started digging throughout its contents.
お、あったあった。
Then she proudly took it out.
ゲロカエルの不良品。
不良品じゃないよ。先週出たギョロリゲロカエルン。
は？
知らないんだ。やっぱ遅れてるな、お兄は。ゲロカエルンって毎週金曜日に新作が発売されてるんだよ。もう全部で12種類ぐらい
Seriously? Was there really enough demand for weekly releases?
ナナが携帯につけてるのは最初に出た普通のゲロカエルンでしょ。で、次がデブッチョゲロカエルンで、その次がカクカクゲロカエルン。
Without skipping a beat, Nanami recited the names of various Garo Froggies.
第4弾がのっぺらゲロカエルンで、第5弾が輝くゲロカエルン、第6弾が一番人気があって猫ゲロカエルンっていうの。その後が幽霊ゲロカエルン、眠るゲロカエルン、燃えるゲロカエルン、ゾンビゲロカエルン、酔っ払いゲロカエルン。
Wow. How the hell did she remember all those? Hang on, had she...
コンプリートしてるの？
もちろんだよ。全部集めなきゃ意味ないもん。毎週買うのに行列ができるんだからね。
For a half-assed piece of garbage like that, to be honest, even I could shit out a better design. Wait, why had she even decided to start lecturing me on Garo Froggies to begin with?
というわけで、このギョロリゲロカエルンあげる。
なんで？
このストラップを携帯につければ、少しは女子から「お、やるな」っていう目で見てもらえるから。
After saying that, Nanami started to put the strap on my phone. I don't want that, the fuck?
コンプしなきゃ意味ないんだろ。僕がそれもらったらお前揃わないぞ。
心配しなくても大丈夫。2つ買ったもん。
毎回2つ買ってるのか。
I was starting to seriously doubt her aesthetic taste.
今回だけだよ。お兄の携帯用に余分に買ったの。
わざわざ。
わざわざ。
Waza. Having now finished attaching the strap, Nanami gave a satisfied nod before wrapping her mouth around her soda straw.
別に並んだのはお兄のためじゃないよ。あくまでついでなんだから。
いらない。
はあ。
Still leaning forward, Nanami opened her eyes wide. She looked like she might throttle me at any moment.
いらないって。ナナがわざわざ買ってきてあげたのに。
ついでだったんだろう。っていうか、僕ゲロカエルンとか興味ないし、むしろキモいし。
だからお兄は女子にモテないんだよ。
I had almost expected her to slap me, but surprisingly, Nanami managed to rein in her temper and sit back down. Then instead of taking her anger out on me, she started nibbling on a fry instead of as she sulked.
でも抵抗しても無駄だからね。ギョロリゲロカエルン、もうくっつけちゃったもん。
She sure was acting like the queen of everything. Then again, I knew jack shit about cell phones, so it was true that Nanami knew best here.
もし勝手に外したら毎週並んでもらうの刑だからね。
並ぶって何に？
決まってんじゃん。新作ゲロカエルンを買うための行列。2時間待ちとか普通だから。
Not a chance in hell. No way was I gonna let my sister hit me with a threat like that. For a while after, Nanami wordlessly continued to fiddle around with my phone. I wasn't particularly picky about whatever she was setting up, so I was honestly grateful for the silence.
なんだか変な気分だな。
The next time she opened her mouth, her sullen demeanor from before had completely disappeared. I guess she only needed a few minutes to forget any annoying shit instead of having to sleep it off. Talk about easygoing. In a way, I envied her.
やっぱ変だよ。お兄とこうして2人で出かけるのって久しぶりな気がするもん。いつ以来かな。よく思い出せないや。お兄はいっつも部屋にこもってアニメ見てるかゲームしてるかだもんね。ま、たまにはこういうのもいいかな、新鮮で。さすがに毎日はナナも嫌だけど。
Nanami placed my phone on the table and picked up her fish sandwich. She happily undid the wrapping, then heartily sank her teeth in. Come to think of it, I feel like she had said at one point that the fish sandwich here was her favorite food.
せいぜい太るがいいさ。
Gleich wieder diese ekligen Gedanken von ihm. Nanami instantly stopped moving. She glared at me menacingly. Then, after hesitating for a second, she bashfully held out her half-eaten fish sandwich.
半分食べる？
もう手遅れだよ。
そういうこと言うと女子に嫌われるって覚えといた方がいいよ、バカ鬼。
Nanami ended up finishing the fish sandwich all on her own. What a fucking fat ass. After that, Nanami held me hostage with hours of useless chatter, and by the time I finally had my phone back, it was already dark. It had been a long, painful few hours, but eventually I was able to get away from Nanami and start heading back home. Fall seemed to be in full swing now, with the night breeze carrying a slight chill, one that soothed my headache and nausea. Those two things never failed to torment me whenever I spent a long time in crowds. Honestly, Nanami, kiss. Okay, don't actually, but still kiss. She only ever thought about herself. She probably didn't even have a clue about how much torture she constantly inflicted on me. If I had the option, I would love to snap my new phone cleanly in half right now and throw it into the nearest trash can. It wasn't like I had bought it with my own money after all. But if I actually did that, it wouldn't just be Nanami that would come to my base, but my parents too. And then, without picking up on a damn thing, they would just go, "Oh, since it broke on you, let's go and buy you a new one," like the idiots they were. Thus, I reluctantly suppressed my urges to smash the damn thing. I needed to get home, and quickly. I could hear another night of Izo calling my name. Not a single day had passed recently that hadn't filled me with endless anxiety. I really hoped my peaceful everyday life would hurry up and come back already. On that night, another grotesque case occurred. The fourth Eugen case. Like always, Grimm laid out the details to me when I was playing Izo. So, ich würde sagen, das ist, denke ich mal, ein guter Zeitpunkt zum Stoppen, weil, wie gesagt, so richtige Stoppmomente gibt es in diesem Spiel nicht. Machen Quick und einen normalen Save. Click me. Wow. Ja. Ja, bis jetzt finde ich das Spiel halt interessant. Also, soweit ich mitgekriegt habe, so viel kann man im ersten Playthrough gar nicht machen. Aber irgendwie beim zweiten Playthrough kann man dann halt verschiedene Routen zu den verschiedenen Mädels, die man da begegnet, irgendwie freischalten. Oder sowas in der Art.